What's up everyone, and welcome to day 0 of Foundation. We're not quite ready to start drumming yet. What I have for you today is 4 introductory videos to the 4 most important skills you're going to play throughout this program. Singles, accent tap, double beat, and paradiddles. I'm going to break down each one of these exercises, how to approach the exercise from a technique standpoint, what we're going to be playing, and everything you need to know before we dive in. So, if you've never held sticks before or you're an experienced drummer, there's something in here for everyone. I'm really excited to walk through these introductions with you and get you ready for Foundation. So grab a pen and paper. Today's a little bit of studying, today's a little bit of homework. Take some notes, and don't worry, you'll get to play along. There's a chance to play along in all of these. So, without further ado, let's dive into day 0. What's up everybody, and welcome to the introduction to singles. I'm really excited. This is the foundational skill that you need in order to do everything else in drumming. Without good singles, you cannot play other figures accurately. You won't be able to play as fast as you want to play, and you really won't be able to do much of anything. Alright, so this exercise is the key to drumming. Alright, so what are we focusing on in this exercise? The real idea that we want to walk away with is the ability to rebound the stick. Alright, so when you're playing the drum and you're learning how to get better at drumming, the first key is understanding legato strokes. I just said understanding. I hope you caught that, because I caught it. You want to rebound the stick. Rebound, just like a basketball. Alright, if you're bouncing a basketball, all you have to do is push down. Right, you push down on the ball, it leaves your hands, it hits the ground, and it comes right back up to you. This is the exact same idea. The stick is in your hand, you push down with the stick, you turn your wrist back down towards the drum, and it's going to bounce right back up for you. Alright, if you don't put a lot of energy in, it'll rebound less. If you put even less energy, it'll rebound even less. But regardless, that's what we're working on. But when we're working on singles, we really want to work on nice, big, legato, open, rebounded strokes. Okay, so how do you know if you're playing a legato stroke, a nice rebounded stroke? Because really, I can bring the stick back up, but I'm not letting it rebound. All right, so it's not, the key isn't what it looks like. The key isn't what height are you playing at, where your sticks are up here, right? The key is, what does it feel like? Does it feel like you're just bouncing a basketball, right? That's what you want it to feel like. So this exercise is going to work on that idea. All right, so that's the main goal of this exercise. So let's throw the first chunk up here, and you're going to notice that the first chunk and the second chunk and more on is very, very similar. Okay. Because we're only doing really one thing in this exercise. The one thing we're doing is we are playing 8th notes with your right hand, and then we're going to play 8th notes with the left hand. So, the first 2 bars of this exercise are 8 notes with your right hand, and then 8 notes with your left hand. That's it. And you count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Alright? Every quarter note has a downbeat of 1. Every 8th note we count with an and. 1 and 2 and, just like I did. Alright? So that's the first 2 bars. All you need to play is 8 notes with your right hand, 8 notes with your left hand, and that's what we've got. Okay, so the point here, 3 and 4 and is rebounding. 2 and 3 and 4 and. We want to make the stick bounce back up to the exact same height every single time. Even if eventually we play down here, like we play faster sometimes, right? You don't need to play it all the way up here because it might not make sense. So you want it to rebound to the same exact height, whatever that happens to be. All right? You want it to sound the same, right? You need to make sure that every time you hit the drum, it's exactly the same. Otherwise, you're going to get, right? You're going to get wacky sounds. It might not be what you're going for. You might want it to sound, we've all heard that drum set, Phil, right? Full bar of 16th notes on the snare drum. But it's not the same if your right hand doesn't sound the same. right? It could be anything else if your hands don't sound the same. Same thing, right hand to left hand. Does your left hand sound exactly the same? So that's what we want to focus on in the first two bars. Perfect eighth notes, accurate rhythms, and accurate, consistent sounds. Cool? All rebounding the stick. All right. And then we get to the third bar, or the second phrase here, which is 16 notes with the right hand. So we do an extended phrase with the right hand. So we go 8 and 3 and 4 and. Then we go to the left hand, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we go 16 notes with the right hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. All right? So that's the first half of this exercise. It's not really half, but for all intents and purposes, that's half. Okay? So nothing changes when you add the 16. So we call that 8, 8, 16 with the right hand. Okay? So if you ever hear that phrase, that's what we're talking about. All right. Things to think about as we're changing bars. Stopping the stick, right? So we have to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, stop. Otherwise, because if we don't stop the stick here to let the left hand play, then our stick's just going to be floating and it's going to look real weird and it's not going to make any sense and your hand doesn't need to be there. So let's make our stick stop. So we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, down, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, down, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, down. And then to go to the next phrase, you guessed it, we're going all off the left that time. So then we go 8, 8, 16 off the left. Okay, so let's do that together. So we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 then we go back to the right hand. Cool? So that's the first 2/3 of the exercise really. So 8, 8, 16, 8, 8, 16. And again, the whole time we're just practicing legatos. We're just practicing nice rebounded strokes, stopping the stick, making everything feel good, turning the wrist, right? Leading with the beat. Your wrist turns first, right? And then you add a little bit of arm if needed. Making sure your fingers are on the stick. You're not squeezing too much. You're letting the stick bounce. Okay? If you squeeze too much, like we talked about, it will not rebound. You know what it feels like when it rebounds. Because a stick, I mean, it wants to go over there. If I don't control it, it'll fly away. It'll fly right out of my hand. That's great. That you want to control that energy. Being a great drummer means using as little energy as possible and doing the most with it, right? You want to be as efficient as possible. Okay? So that's pretty much it. The last phrase here is 2 bars of 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. And you guessed it, you're still playing 8th notes, right? Your right hand didn't change. That's what 16th notes is. And if you switch, so all we're doing is we're moving our notes closer together. Our hands are playing almost on top of each other. So all that changes is the rhythm, right? Because we're probably not really aiming. I mean, it's important to be able to play really consistent 8th notes. I mean, playing on a hi-hat, that can be really cool, super important. There's a lot of reasons to be able to play great 8th notes with one hand. But that's probably not what you're aiming for. That's probably not why you came to this video. You probably came to this video because you want to eventually play, right? And to get there, you need to be able to play really slow, really accurately, and playing with perfect rebounds. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And don't worry, I don't count through any of the videos. I'm just doing it now to make sure you know we're all on the same page. Okay, I put the metronome on in the videos, and we go through this whole exercise straight through, and then we do it a whole bunch of times. So you get 1,000,000 reps, and you log your 10,000 hours that it takes to become a professional and excellent at something. So That's the whole exercise. It's not terribly complicated. In fact, it's as simple as we can possibly make it. And that's so, number one, you memorize it really quickly. And two, you're not spending time thinking about the exercise. Like, what am I going to do next? What's the next right hand, left? You don't have to worry about it because you're going to memorize it like that. And then you get to focus on, all right, how are my hand transitions? What does my left hand doing when my right hand is playing? It's called your tacit hand, right? Is it just tacit, silent, not moving? Or is it floating off in outer space because you didn't even realize, oh man, I got to pay attention to that hand, right? The fact that the exercise is simple allows you to do that, all right? So there's a million things to talk about when going through this exercise, and I'll point them out as we go, but that's the foundation, right? You start with a great setup, make sure your grip is in control, and you're ready to go, all right? Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments or reach out on email. I'd be happy to get back to you. But otherwise, go ahead. Check out 80 to 90 beats per minute. That's the first place to start. And I'm really excited to see you there. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Introduction to Accents and Taps video. So presumably you've come here from single strokes and now you're here at accent tap. Now, why do you care about accents or taps, right? Music is super boring if we just play, right? That is super monotonous and that is not interesting music, right? The rhythm's not interesting, the sounds aren't that interesting. All we're working on there is our ability to play a rebounded stroke so that we have that in our arsenal. All right, now we can play rebounded strokes, which means we can play really fast, we can move around the drums, whatever it is that you want to do with those, we now have that skill set. The next skill set is we want to be able to control the volume, the different sounds that come off our drum, right? So sometimes you don't want to just play all the way up here. Sometimes that's super necessary, but a lot of times there's nuance. You want to play, right? You want to play different heights, you want to play accents on different beats, and eventually we want to play different rhythms. We'll get to that later, but we're going to attack each skill set as it comes. The one we're going to focus on now is the ability to change sounds. That's what we're working on in accent tap, and that's what we're going to burn into our memory, right? This whole exercise is just turning your hands kind of into machines so that they know this is what it feels like to play low, this is what it feels like to play high, and we'll get to some middle ranges as we go through the exercise and hit different tempos, but that's the basis for this exercise. We want to create quiet notes, we want to create louder notes. That makes music more interesting, all right? So, in order to start, let's check out the first chunk of this exercise, your right hand and your left hand. And all it is 8 notes, or two bars rather, of right hand eighth notes and 2 bars of left hand eighth notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then the same thing with the left. Right? So that's the whole first 2 bars. Now why on earth would we start with such a boring introduction? The point here is to memorize what taps feel like. We're going to start the exercise by just honing in what this feels like. Nice and rebounded strokes. There's sometimes a confusing part for drummers when they're learning is they think, legato strokes are legato strokes, taps are taps, and accents are accents, right? Not exactly. It's a little more nuanced than that, and truly, a lot of taps are really just slow legato notes, right? If we're playing real fast, right, those are still legato strokes. They're just lower, right? So that's the same thing we're working on here, is we're working on low controlled taps or legato strokes. All right, so that's the point. The point for the first 2 phrases, or the first phrase with the right and the left hand, is to burn that into your hands. It's a primer. What is this exercise going to feel like? If we're at a tempo, all right, let's memorize what these taps are going to feel like. And then the same with the left. Okay, I have a sense of what this is going to feel like. All right, now let's move on to the next phrase. The next phrase is accents every 2 beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then off the left. And the only thing we've done in this phrase is we've introduced a new accent, right? We've introduced one variable into this equation that we're working on of developing height control and dynamic control. Is we went from perfect, very quiet eighth notes, rebounded legato strokes, and now we want to go, well, what happens if we change that? Oh. All of a sudden, now we have a whole nother musical phrase, right? This is something memorable. It's at least more interesting, that's for sure. I don't know how memorable it is, it's at least interesting. Now we have an accent sometimes, okay? So now what is it supposed to feel like? So the first thing we have to talk about here is downstrokes, okay? Downstrokes are legato strokes. We talk about this in single strokes because we're downstroking on the last eighth note of each hand. Down, down. Right now all we're doing is we're starting with a downstroke, which is just a controlled legato stroke. A lot of times people get confused and think if we're stopping the stick, I need to squeeze with all my might, I need to really squeeze it, and then, oh no, I'm in trouble because now I have to play nice rebounded legato strokes, but I'm squeezing the heck out of the stick. So this is a good exercise to make you relax. The whole exercise is learning how to relax at different heights when there's accents in different places. So, a nice relaxed downstroke followed by 3 eighth notes, 3 more tap strokes, right? And then it repeats. Relax, and then legato, 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 legato. Boom. Okay? That's it. There's not a tremendous amount more going on here. The key here is just figuring out how can I have the exact same type of eighth note, or the same type of accent every single time. My right hand, my left hand, and can I keep the taps the exact same as they were before, right? That first phrase where nothing changed, can I go through this and have nothing change? It gives you a second because there's a minute between, there's not a literal minute, but there's 3 notes between each accent. 1 and 2 and 2, 3, 4. Right? So you have a minute in your mind to reset. Okay, that was too tight, need to relax, 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 relax. And then you get another shot. Right? So it gives you time to reset your hands and figure out how to relax. All right, let's go to the next phrase. This next phrase here, the accents come a little bit quicker. Right? Which means you have less time to prepare. You have a downstroke, a nice legato stroke, then you have another legato stroke, but then you got to prepare again for that accent. Sometimes people call these upstrokes. I don't like to talk about upstrokes too much because I don't think they're a different stroke. I think it's a legato stroke and then you're just preparing for the next stroke, right? So if you ever hear the term upstroke, that's all it is. I just don't talk about it that much. Right? That's it. You have 2 different strokes in this whole thing. It's a downstroke, which is still legato, and a tap stroke, which is a legato, then another tap, which is a legato, then you got to get ready for another accent. Okay? So the whole purpose here is it gets a little bit harder. You have different strokes moving at a little bit of a faster rate. All right, let's go to the next phrase. The next phrase, the accents come even faster. Sometimes you may hear these called bucks. Right? This one, the accents and taps are changing every other note. Downstroke, and then a tap stroke, and then you're back up again. Downstroke and a tap stroke. So as this gets a little bit more complex, you have to figure out, how do I make my accents feel the same? How do I make my taps feel the same? Do they sound the same? All those things you're going to have to think about as the pattern changes. Okay? So again, the technique doesn't change at all. You want your accent here to feel the same here as it does here. right? None of those feelings should change, but as the notes move faster, your hand has to learn how to react faster. So that's what we're working on. That's another part of this exercise. The next phrase is 2 accents and then a tap. So now we've kind of flipped it. Before we had more taps than accents, now we got more accents than taps. Right? And the same thing off the left. This is probably the most technically challenging part of this exercise because you're going from a legato stroke to a downstroke to a low tap, right? And then back up. Legato, accent, down, accent, tap, and then you're back up. So there's the most amount of change you can possibly have in a short amount of time. Those are all the skill sets in this exercise combined into 3 notes, and it repeats the pattern. Okay, so when you're getting to faster tempos, you'll likely find that this is going to be, right, the section that you'll have to focus on the most because it's just technically the most challenging. All right, let's go to the last section. The last section I like to look at a little bit as almost like a recap of the entire exercise where you have 2 legato strokes, just like the previous phrase. Legato, then a down, still legato, just rebounds less. Then 2 taps, so you get another moment to think. You have boom, boom, right? This one is you have more time to think between accents and taps, and you have, it's almost like another reset of what was the most challenging part in the phrase before it to. Let's recap. What are we doing? We have good accents, we have good taps, right? That's how we close out this exercise. So that's the whole exercise. We start at 80 beats per minute. I highly recommend that you start there too. It's slow, it takes tempo control, but it gives you a tremendous amount of time to get really comfortable with the exercise. All right? You want to make sure that that you memorize this exercise because there's so much to think about. If you're reading and wondering which hand you're going to be on, it's going to be challenging just to get through it. But the sooner you memorize it, the faster you can start to work on, all right, nice and relaxed. My tap strokes sound the same. My left hand feels the same as my right, and all those good things that you'll work on. But that is the core of this exercise. All right, so let me know down below if you have any questions about this and how I can help prepare you more. But if you feel ready, I'm super excited for you to get into this exercise. This is probably one of the most important exercises as a drummer so that you can create interest and variance in what you're doing. And if you're ready, I'm ready. I will see you in the next video. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Introduction to Double Beat exercise. This is one of the more exciting exercises to learn when you're first learning drums or you're just working on a skill set. I know that when I wanted to learn how to play drums, one of the first things I wanted to learn was how do I play a drum roll, right? And so this is one of the foundational parts of learning how to play a really fast drum roll. All right, so what this exercise is, it's called double beat for a reason. It means you're doing 2 notes with your right hand and you're doing 2 notes with your left hand. That's what you're working on. That's the foundation of what a lot of drumming is, really fast drumming when you get to different rudiments and when you get to rolls. The foundation is 2 rights, 2 lefts, 2 rights, 2 lefts. It gets slow to fast and however you want to play it. Anyway, so what this exercise does is it practices getting good at 2 notes in a row. We play 16th notes for the first time in these videos. Right? And we count 16th notes just like we counted 8th notes. We counted them 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We count 16th notes 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay? So very similar, we just add an E and an between the 1 and the and or the 2 and the and that we were playing before with 8th notes. 16th notes are just double the speed of 8th notes. So let's take a look at this first part of the exercise. And this whole exercise is very similar to singles, where you have a bar of 8th right hand, a bar of left hand, and then 2 bars of right hand. So we go right, left, right, 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 right. Then we have the same thing off the left, left, right, left, 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 left. And then we have a bar of putting it together, right? So one of the parts that we want to work on when we're going through singles is the ability to play so that we can do a whole lot of other things. We're never really trying to work on this by itself, right? There are different skills that you can apply that to, or different things that you can do with that skill set. But one of the things you definitely want to be able to do is, okay, so one of the things we want to work on with double beat is, okay, so this is the foundation of learning how to do that and then applying it to all sorts of other rudiments. So it'll be great. The first part of this exercise is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and then the exact same thing off the left hand. So it's a phrase that you'll recognize very quickly after you play it. Da 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 da. And then, just like we did with singles where we extend the right hand out for 2 bars, we're going to extend the right out here with doubles. Da 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 da. And then you do the exact same process off the left. Okay? It's very straightforward, but it takes a minute because this is the first time that we're going to play a rhythm because we're still going to move our feet. And our feet aren't going to line up with our hands. There's going to be times where our foot is moving and our hand is not playing. So this is something that as you're learning drums or getting good at this for the first time, this can be a little bit tricky. Okay, so this is learning rhythms, and this is also building a chop of being able to play 2 notes really fast together in a legato stroke method, right? So these are both legato. You're going to need to squeeze a little bit in your fulcrum. Remember your fulcrum from our first introduction to single strokes. We talked about our fulcrum. We had how to hold the stick properly. We got our fulcrum right here. This is when you're going to start to squeeze a little bit in your fulcrum. Not very much. The faster you go, you'll need to squeeze more. Initially, it's just 2 wrist turns. So that's another element where people sometimes get tripped up when they're learning how to play double strokes, is they squeeze their stick and they just let go with their fingers, right? None of those techniques are going to work long term. Your fingers aren't on the stick, you're not going to have control. So we have to develop the technique and the understanding of playing 2 notes with our fingers wrapped around the stick, 2 wrist strokes. Eventually, when we get faster, we'll need to start squeezing our fulcrum, and it'll be a little bit less of 2 wrist turns, but the more control you can have, the better. All right, you don't want to guess. You don't want to just hope and pray that I'm going to get 2 perfect notes out of my fingers when I'm playing. That's a recipe for losing control. And if you're not in control of the sticks, who is? All right, so that's what we're working on in this exercise. Okay, so to get through this understanding, we're going to start very slow, and we just want to understand how to count it. So let's do the first bar together. I'll count us off and we'll play. Or you can watch and then you can jump in. So here we go, first bar only. We'll do the first 2 bars because we'll add the right and then the left. Here we go. 1, 2, first 2 bars here. All right, how was that? Was that chaos or was that nice and control? All right, I'm going to count it this time, and hopefully you can count it too. Let's try that. 1, 2, counting 2 bars, go. 1 E, a 2, and a E and 4 and 1 E, a 2, and a E and 4 and 1. All right, so all that is us going 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and. You might have to practice that just a little bit so you understand what's happening musically so you can move your feet to it. Because if you can't move your feet to what you're playing, then you're not truly understanding what it is that you're playing. Okay? It's not super necessary for you to be able to count it out loud. That's just a helpful tool for you. If you can repeat it and understand that where that lines up, then you're great. Then you're golden. All right? The best part about this is that it lines up on the 4, right? So you will notice 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Beat 3, your foot, whichever foot you're working with, will not line up with your hands. That's the first time that this happens. Okay? So take note of that. And also take note of 4 and 1 E, a 2 and a E and 4 and 1. That's a good reset for you. And then we just got to go to the next section, and we see 2 full bars of the right hand. 1 E and a 2 E and a E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and 1. And then the exact same process off the left. Okay? So, the last part about this exercise is that we end with 16th notes. Straight up, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, and you do that 2 times through, because guess what that is? Yeah, it's a drum roll. So the whole point of this exercise is working on your double strokes for a lot of different reasons, developing that muscle, building legato strokes, rebounded strokes, so that you can apply it to something like, all right? Let me know if you have any questions down below. Be happy to reach out and answer you. Otherwise, if you're ready to go, I will see you in the first double strokes video. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Introduction to Paradiddles video. I want to break down this exercise for you, and I want to break down the skill set so that you can go apply it from 80 all the way to as far and as fast as you want to take it. Okay, so where I want to start with is who cares about paradiddles? Paradiddles are a super important rudiment. They're one of the foundational skills to playing anything with your hands around the drums. Eventually, if you're playing drum set, you'll learn how to play paradiddles between your hands and your feet. That's really cool. All this is a pattern, right? It's just a sticking right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Okay? If you want to get good at this pattern, it's interesting. It allows you to change hands. It allows you to move around the drums in a different way, and it opens up, because you're now on your left hand, it lets you do other things. If you're playing only 16th notes, or whatever the rhythm happens to be, if you're only playing, number one, that'll get really boring. You can do that for a while. It's just not interesting, and it doesn't let you, it limits you, right? These rudiments and these skill sets that we're going to work on are tools for your tool belt, so that you're playing something on a drum set, and then you want to go, whatever, you can do that because you just now have this skill. If you're working in the marching world and maybe you're writing your own things, or maybe you're just playing somebody else's music, which is most of the time, you're going to see paradiddles all over the place. It's way easier to play at a faster tempo than it is. And it's not interesting, right? We want to play interesting, challenging things, right? We want to give variety of what it looks like. That's another element that this brings to the table. Tons of reasons to get good at paradiddles, but the reality is it's a fundamental rudiment, it's a fundamental skill to learning how to drum. All right, so if you've never played drums before, you want to back up and you want to look at the singles, the introduction to singles video. You want to get the introduction to accent tap, and you're going to want to go through double beat. You don't want to start on paradiddles because this is combining 3 skills that you need to have before you start. You need single control, you need accent and tap control, and you need double beat control. Okay? And that's what this builder exercise does. So let's start with the first chunk here. Down below, I'm going to go through this, and as you can see, it's just 8th notes. This looks identical to accent tap, except it just changes hands. This is the foundational idea of paradiddles. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And if you can do that consistently, then you've gotten your checkbox, first step on your way to playing good paradiddles. You want to have nice, just like accent tap, you want to have nice, relaxed downstrokes, not squeezing. Because if you squeeze the stick, it's going to be really hard to do what we're about to do. You can get away with it for the first one, but you're not going to be able to get away with it for long. All right, so nice, relaxed downstroke, nice legato, rebounded tap stroke. All right? You want to memorize what that feels like in both of your hands. Consistent rhythm, consistent sounds, right with your feet. All right, making sure that your grip and your setup doesn't change even a little bit throughout this entire exercise. All right? All right, let's check out the next one. The next phrase here is adding in a 16th note. Adding in one more 16th note on each hand. So 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Okay? So, a couple things that are important here. Number one, first thing that's super important is don't change the first thing that we worked on. That is still within here. All we're doing now is adding in another note. Okay? So that's super important that as we go, that the first part doesn't change. This is a builder, which means we're building on top of it, right? We're laying a foundation, then we add in our next skill, and then we're going to add in our next, and then we're going to be at the top of our pyramid of playing paradiddles, okay? So, can't change. All right, and then this second phrase is where you will see double beat come in. Hey, we knew it was going to be useful, we just didn't know when. All right, it's already useful. Okay, so we're playing low. Remember double beat? Right? Now we're just playing it a little bit lower. It's still 2 wrist turns. You might have a little bit of fulcrum pressure depending on the speed in which you're playing it. You might feel your fingers moving with the stick. All right, your fingers might end up being a part of this depending on the tempo, but you generally speaking want to start with 2 wrist turns. Cool? And we're just applying accent tap and then double beat. And we're playing a new rhythm, right? Before we haven't played this rhythm between our hands. We played this rhythm in double beat, it just didn't come across that way, okay? Let's go to the third pattern, is a new phrase, but again, as you'll notice, right? That 8th note pattern does not change. That's still well within there. All we're doing is we're adding in the E's. 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 E and, 4 E and, 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 E and, 4 E and, 1. All right, so that's all we're doing in this next couple bars of this exercise. Cool? Things to think about here, consistent, low legato strokes. You don't want to be tense because what you're doing is you're getting ready. You're preparing for that next note. And you never want to be tense, okay? So that's what we're doing there. And then we get to the actual phrase. We put it all together. We play the 8th notes. We add the last diddle. And now we put it all together, okay? So there's not much to this last phrase, but all we want to do is just add in all the skills. So build the foundation, play that extra note, add one more note, and then you're playing a paradiddle, okay? So the goal, things to think on about through this entire exercise is how can I be as consistent as possible? How can I keep my 8th notes exactly the same no matter whether I'm playing or, okay, so that's really important. Other things to think about: consistent heights, right? Especially if you're in the marching world, you have to match the sound of the person next to you. You have to match the heights, because drumming is a very visual activity. All right, so you want to make sure your heights are the same on the low end too, right? We haven't played this low for diddles yet. It takes a level of control, not to be, you don't need to play them up here. That's a different skill set, okay? So that's another thing to think about. That's an introduction to paradiddles. Work through this exercise on your own, or jump right into 80 to 90 beats per minute. That's where we start. We start here at 80 beats per minute, and it gives you a ton of time to think. Right? That's a lot of time to think, and all the way through. Okay? So start there. That's our first video to actually apply this skill, and then you'll work your way up to as fast as you want to go. I'm really excited for you to dive in there. Thanks for checking this out, and let's go play some paradiddles. Thanks so much for playing along. If you liked that video, please let me know down below. Let me know why you liked it. Let me know what you're working on so I can make more things exactly for what you need. And if you didn't like it, keep it to yourself. No, if you didn't like it, please let me know why down below, because I want to make videos that you need. What skill sets do you need? What would make you better faster? Let me know. And if you want to get some real feedback, tag me in videos. Send me an email, tag me on Instagram, tag me on YouTube. I want to give you comments. I want to make this a community, and I want us to all get better at drums faster. All right, I'll see you in the next one.